So this morning is Stocktake. And Stocktake is such a fancy spiritual word, isn't it? But it is just my word. So you can call it whatever you want, but I'm very practical, and I try, when I teach people things, I want them to think about what it is by what I call it. So this is a Stocktake. So every morning I do a Stocktake, and every night I do a Stocktake, and it's like almost reconciling every day so that you don't take anything into the next day, which is pretty simple and logical if you think about it. So it works by every morning I wake up, and after doing my priming, after doing my stretching, after doing the things that I do in the morning, so after doing your rituals in the morning, I then just sort of have a very, very, very quick assessment of how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking, and sort of like, am I feeling high vibe? Am I feeling low vibe? Am I sort of sitting in the middle? Am I a little bit like, whatever? It could go both ways today. And if I'm feeling sort of anything that's more than like a neutral or up, I just take note of it, either mental note. I used to write it down, but now I just do a mental note, if I'm being honest. And then when it gets to nighttime, what I do is another Stocktake again. And I'm like, how am I feeling now? Am I feeling different to how I was this morning is usually my first question. So if I was feeling high vibe in the morning, and then when I go to bed, I'm feeling low vibe, this is where the Stocktake occurs. And I want to know why I'm feeling low when I woke up high. Or if I'm feeling low in the morning and I go to bed and I'm still feeling low, I want to know why. If I go to bed and I'm feeling high when I felt low in the morning, then I want to know why. Is this making sense? So the way that we do a Stocktake is understanding what it was during our day that caused our vibration to raise or caused our vibration to lower by the time we go to bed. So we need to look at our nutrition at that point. So not only do we need to look at the things that we ate and drank, or perhaps didn't eat and drink that day, but we also need to look at the people that we spent time with. We need to look at the work we were doing that day. We need to look at the environment that we were in that day, and really just start to get to know what affects our nutrition, what affects our vibration outside of the things that we're being intentional and deliberate with. Because as our vibration raises, regardless of whether we're realizing it or not, things around us just don't match us anymore, which you would know now after listening to the nutrition one. So the kind of things that we need to really look at are the things that are the most constant in our life, like the people and the environment that we're in. So who did you spend time with today is usually my first go-to question after food, but usually my food is the same every day. Like it's always a variant of the same. So I kind of know what affects me, and I'm going to know straight away that if I ate something that was gluten and I'm feeling a bit funny that night, then of course that's what it was. But food aside, I usually go to who did I converse with today and what was that conversation about? So it's the person's energy and whether or not that person has now become slightly toxic to me, or just was toxic to me that day because the conversation that we had was toxic to me. So it really helps you just become very aware and in tune of nutrition that you've got around you. Someone lost a tooth in her sleep last night. And she's like, Mum, I finally lost my tooth. And I'm like, yay. She goes, no, like lost my tooth. I go, yay. And she goes, no. Lost my tooth. And I'm like, you mean you don't know where it is? She goes, yeah. Hi, Yana. So, okay, I need you to go sit back down for me on my phone. Yes, quick. Yep, you're going to be back. So the other thing that we go to then is our environment. So if we've been at home and we haven't left the house all day, but somehow we haven't conversed with anyone else, we've eaten the same food, we've just been at home, then sometimes the thing that could lower our vibration, which you would have maybe seen on the nutrition table that I sent last night in yesterday's email. sometimes the things that affect our nutrition is our emotions and what we're thinking about. So our thoughts and our emotions can also be something that obviously raises and lowers. So it's about just finding those things in your day-to-day life that are very kind of standard in your life. Lucky, no. Turn it down or go out there, please. Turn it down or go outside, please. What? Yes. Yes. Sorry. She's on YouTube watching someone play a game.
I love Minecraft.
I love Minecraft. Goodness me. Just too cute though. So where was I at? I can't remember now. But it's about finding the things. Yeah. It's about finding the things that are standard through your day. So not the things that are random, because they're very easy to identify. This is about finding and identifying the things that are in your day that you're not consciously aware of, that they're just subconscious, or maybe you've become a little bit lazy or a little bit kind of just blind to it. But it's really dissecting those days. So in the morning, we just, after our morning ritual, whatever that looks like, we just have a quick vibe check. It's like, how am I vibing? And you've got to be really honest with yourself, because it's really going to affect your evening vibe check or your evening stock take. So the kind of things that you're looking for as you get further and further into a stock take, you know, after doing it for a few weeks even, is really those emotions and those thoughts. Because after a few weeks, you'll start to realize that, hey, when I speak to Tiffany at the service station every morning when I get my coffee or whatever, or I don't care, like the cafe, whatever, when I speak to her when I get in the car, I actually feel really good. And I was like, okay, cool. So we keep Tiffany, or we keep that coffee place or that service station or whatever it is. But then at lunchtime, when I go down to the cafe on a Wednesday, when I treat myself to a cafe lunch or whatever, and I speak to Jane, I always come away just thinking, ew, like, I don't know why, but I just come away feeling a bit off. So at that point, it's not always Jane. It could be what you're getting for lunch. It could also be the cafe or the environment. It could also be the exchange of conversation. Like, sometimes there's people that we feel safe to be able to have certain conversations with. And it's like, you know, those people that it's kind of like you go to your local place that you kind of, you're not friends with them, but they're people that you know. And it's usually exactly the same exchange every time. It's like, how you doing today? Yeah, good. What have you done today? Yeah, I've been at work. Oh my God, work's so busy. And it's just almost like on repeats. And then you come away, at what point do you actually stop and go, that was kind of a complete waste of voice for starters, and a complete waste of an exchange. So then it's maybe not the person or the place or what you're getting. It might actually just be that exchange is low vibe. So next time you go in there, change it up. See whether or not that raises your vibe or lowers your vibe. So we're not necessarily throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're really just trying to keep the things that are in our life, but really dissect them to see how we can make them better. Now, obviously, every night that we go to bed, the aim is to either be the same as what you were in the morning if it's great, or better if it was low or higher. Which means that if you're lower, it means you're not recognizing spaces in your day where you can one-up yourself. It means you're not identifying points where you can show up for yourself, or you can show up for other people and raise the energy. And ultimately, it's a responsibility that I think is something that we want for ourselves. It's, you know, living deliberately and intentionally and consciously, rather than just like floating through life. It's living in the present. So when I go to bed at night, usually my stock take is, it's usually a lower vibe because it's something to do with my kids. Because everything else in my life is almost by design. And if it's sort of like, you know, when we had to put Buddha down, obviously when I went to bed, I was a much lower vibe. But at the same time, if I'm aware of why, and it's something that I'm happy to sit with, like grief, I'm not afraid of sitting with grief and sadness. Like, it's just something that we all need to experience. And if I was afraid of it and I mask it, then it might turn into anger or avoidance, which is going to turn into more coping mechanisms, and it's just going to end up on a flow-on effect. So sometimes when we get to that nighttime, if my low vibe is because of my kids and things that are going on, if it's because of, you know, Buddha or anything like that, that's sort of beyond my control as such, it's okay to sit with it. So it's okay to recognize that I'm actually one-upping myself by accepting what I'm feeling right now, if that makes sense. So it's getting a little bit deep, but if I was to go to bed last Saturday night after I put Buddha down and recognize that in my Stocktake, I'm really fucking sad and I'm vibing so low, of course I am, but I have a completely valid reason to do that. And I'm only going to be vibing low if I'm cranky at myself or trying to avoid my real emotion. The way that I'm one-upping myself is by accepting that this emotion is acceptable, that this emotion, that this feeling, that this thought space is something that I am okay to go through. So I one-up myself by giving myself some compassion and kindness. So does that make sense? Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Wow. I thought I'd be like, question. No? So you can start by doing the Stocktake by writing it down if you want in the morning, if that's what you do, even if it's just a quick, like a quick scribble so that you can come back to it at nighttime. You could work on a scale system, like, okay, well, today I'm feeling like I'm vibing at about a 7. So tonight when I go to bed, my aim is to be a 7 or higher. If you're below a 7, it might be like, okay, well, what is it? And it's really dependent on time. So this is one of those rituals or practices that I do as I'm getting into bed at night. So my Stocktake getting into bed. So I don't really spend that much time on it. It's only if I'm vibrating the same or lower that I will write it down and deal with it tomorrow. I don't try and deal with it at bed. I just deal with it in the morning through my meditation practice, and I'll do letting go or through priming or through releasing or through whatever, or through going and having a shower or whatever. If I'm feeling greater then when I'm going to sleep, I focus on the gratitude for feeling greater. So as I'm going to sleep, I'll do breath work and I'll be just so grateful for whatever it was that raised my vibration and the fact that I'm in the present moment to identify what that was. And usually I wake up in the morning and I'm usually always much high vibration, because obviously through the night I've gone to bed high vibe and I've gone to bed with gratitude and true gratitude in my heart and in my energy and my vibe. And then you wake up and it's just that momentum and that flow on effect of waking up high and then just wanting to stay present and positive and happy.